All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a wonderful day. We have a very wild week ahead of us. Tomorrow we get Jerome Powell, then we get the CPI, then you get more executive orders, and then by Friday, Trump is going to be meeting with Indian President Narendra Modi. But also right now, after hours, Trump just signed the most sweeping tariffs so far, and this one was on steel. We had word of it over the weekend, and even coming into this morning, he signed it here after the bell. And the funniest part about all of it, this is actually the biggest tariff he has done. This is on every single country. Anybody importing any sort of steel, they're going to have to deal with a tariff there. And the thing about it is that in 2018, this was the first shot of the trade war. Now, here's the deal. Even today, we had some reciprocal tariffs. There's a pretty interesting reaction. I mean, even then, the market's good. Right now, after hours, things are coming down a little bit. The currencies are somewhat stable, but Canada and Mexico got affected. I'm going to go over all that. I got a bunch of pretty pictures to show you, man. We're going to talk about some trade, man. There's a lot to go over, but the whole point is we are getting a much smaller reaction, and now there's a reason why. I mean, we have had history to talk about it, so I'm going to go over all of that. I have the plays, I have the keys, and I hope I see you tomorrow for Powell Live. So if you don't know, we're live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes before open, youtube.com/stockmarket. I think I botched it. Like the video? Okay, run it, baby.
Working to the couch, it's the 2020 election. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a live, but I still reinvest it. Feel how I feel, then you feel like a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down, hold it.
But right off the bat, we got to really talk about this tariff stuff, but I do want to go over some of the things with the market broadly. One, we have a very big week. Like I told you, Powell, all the way down to Friday, you are still going to be getting stuff. It is the first 100 days, but you are not going to be getting all of your answers intraday. Even today, we knew about the steel tariffs and all of it, but nothing was signed till after the bell. They kept pushing it back. Ever since the last couple of weeks, everyone started to wake up to the fact that Trump could shake things up, and then all of a sudden, after a couple of rumors, everybody started waiting till after the bell, at least as far as the Trump administration. So keep that in mind. The other thing we talked about broadly, assuming nothing terrible happens, and if something terrible happened, it'd probably be tariffs causing inflation, assuming it's not another external event. But this is going to be an idea you might hear from now until like the middle of the year. It's pretty much going to be risk on until we get rate hikes. We have been in this range for a couple of months. Unless Powell or an external or something really changes, the market is already dealt with almost everything, especially after all of those fears. So keep that in mind. And now for the tariffs that were enacted today, it was these steel tariffs, but let's go into a little bit more detail. So although it was on every single country, there is a couple of misconceptions. One, a lot of steel in the world is made by China, but ever since like 2018 and how it works, we do not import a lot of steel from China. They are actually lowest on our list. The people that are hit the hardest, number one, Canada imports the most steel, then Brazil, and then Mexico and South Korea. Everybody starts to level out, like Germany, Taiwan, and then China again. They're at the end, but Canada and Mexico, they make up 40%. So this thing, although it affected the most amount of people today, and Trump did say he is going to be signing reciprocal tariffs tomorrow, and I'm not going to go into too much detail because, again, that'll probably happen after the bell and we'll spend all day waiting for it. But essentially, these are just a couple of scenarios. But anybody who already has tariffs on us, Trump is going to hit them with another tariff, and then they're either going to keep their tariff or they'll respond or drop their tariff. And then these are all the potential impacts. And that's what I'm saying, man. When it comes to all of this, there's going to be a lot of effects. I think even after this steel tariff today and all the numbers, people are expecting about, like, I want to say like half a cent increase on steel per like pound or per ton. I think it's like $50 per ton. We'll have to double check on that. But this is what makes it all kind of odd, because even though this is affecting a lot of different countries, in 2018, this was seen as like the first big trade war deal, but it's only on $50 billion of goods. So remember, we talked about China. They retaliated on $14 billion. That wasn't much, but in this case, $50 billion of goods, it is not that much. It's still a larger amount than, let's say, China, but comparatively, it sounds really aggressive. But when it's all said and done, it's affecting Canada and Mexico the most. Even for aluminum, Canada, I want to say, is like 90% of all of our aluminum imports. So it's affecting these guys, or maybe we get in a tit-for-tat trade war with them and go back and forth. But essentially, these guys are probably going to take the beating. And in a weird way, I'm telling you, China's on the end of the list, even though Trump just signed a sweeping tariff, and people are saying this is the most expansive one so far. Not only is the market kind of taking it well, but think about it. China, they're, again, dodging a bullet in all of this. So we've talked about that before, but the other thing that I keep bringing up is the import amounts. And this is from Goldman Sachs. They have their projections on what they expect, but this is what I want you to see, the amount in billions. So again, China, we're talking $14 billion of goods on what they responded to today. The steel, it's not a small amount, $50 billion worth of imports in steel, but it's also not the biggest. You know, if we're talking full-blown trade war with China, we're talking $430 billion of imports. Again, Mexico, the full trade war, $507 billion, or 411. That's why these would have been big, but right now it's temporary, and then they're going to be working that out. That's why the market has been saying it's kind of been a negotiation tactic. Everything else has been somewhat smaller. So in a weird way, if nothing bad happens, we'll be good. But until we start to see bigger amounts, I mean, I think that's why the market is taking it well. But we'll see how this plays out tomorrow. And then again, that announcement of the reciprocal tariffs, that's going to be the other thing alongside Powell that we are going to be watching for. And then as far as Powell, I'll just tell you right now, it should be a dud tomorrow. I don't think he's going to say anything, but in the spirit of watching things, we're just going to be watching for one or two comments to deviate for the norm. If he doesn't really say anything about rates or feeling better or worse about labor or give insight into the tariffs, and he's probably not going to. I mean, we just heard from him. He should sound pretty much exactly the same. Then depending on how that plays out, it shouldn't really be too much of an event. And then again, those reciprocal tariffs, it'll probably hit, and I'll probably have more of an update, and it'll all happen by the time I am giving you the watch list. So we'll see where it all takes us. But other than that, let us get into the plays. So, right off the bat, I have a couple of different plays, and this one I think is interesting, but it had a weird after-hours reaction, and I think even with the tariff stuff, we'll see. But Tesla, there was news that Elon and XAI made an offer to buy like a majority controlling stake of OpenAI. I think it was either for, I thought it was $90 billion, or maybe it was like 9.6, because Sam Altman responded back and said, no, thank you, but I'll buy Twitter for $9.6 billion. But whole point was, I mean, if you remember last time Elon got in any sort of, I want to buy a lot of things, Tesla got murked because he borrowed against it. So I think XAI is a different entity, but I'm sure it probably all roads lead down to Tesla shares. But if it does lead into anything serious, then I think Tesla will go down. Otherwise, if it's just talking smack, then this will be short-lived. And then Tesla just been going down ever since after that first initial Trump pump. So we'll see where that takes us. But that is play number one. Going to be looking out for that. Then play number two, the dollar. We still got one of those cheap plays that popped up after one of those last weeks. But really, I think the final big pop is going to happen after Trump announces the critical import list. So Trump is going on a roll here. Now he's doing the steel stuff. We'll see what happens with the imports from China all the way down to Mexico and not, but this is it. Because I've been telling you guys, when it comes down to tariffs, I mean, there's a lot of info out there. And again, this is from banks. I mean, it's not like I'm making this shit up. I have no other way to put I read the info. I know how to get the info. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's one thing we care about when it comes down to like, oh my gosh, our prices are going to go up for tariffs. One, just keep in mind, I'm showing you that list of all those goods. Even if the worst case scenario happened, the implementation time, that'll take time to feed into the economy. But the real thing you should be looking for when it comes down to the worry about your price increases and tariffs having a negative effect, it is the critical imports. These are the things that we need a lot and the things that we don't make as much. And that's where now, literally, pharmaceuticals and mineral fuels alone, this is $300 billion. That's almost the whole size if we tariffed all the imports from China. So again, that's why you got to kind of get specific when it comes down to leading into a real direct price increase. But this is the list there, and that's why I'm saying the dollar, it's already been up. It's kind of been holding, and you'll get these pop and drops. But I think if Trump starts to announce tariffs on critical imports and stuff that we are not as good at making, then I think that's going to be the final big major move on the dollar. And then from there, we start to see what Powell or anybody else does, or maybe, I don't know. I think the dollar should pop and come down because it's already crazy. But even then, maybe that just starts a whole new wave. But we'll see. But that is the catalyst you want to be looking for. I hope this prepares you in the future. And that is play number 2. And then finally, K-Web. And I want to bring this play up. I'm already up on my Baba, my K-Web. I think I got old Baidu options that are down. But even the Baidu and then Baba long-term killing it. But, dude, K-Web, and I have a weird intention bringing this up because you should probably look at China. I don't know, and I'm telling you, I'm up on these plays because I don't know if you should keep playing it. It is very overbought if you look at even technical indicators, and I hope me bringing it up is the top. And why do I say that? Because, dude, China has been outperforming very heavily against the world ever since the DeepSeek stuff. And people aren't really bringing it up as much. It's kind of a very silent rally, or it's kind of, I mean, I don't know. It seems like an elephant in the room. Again, the NASDAQ is only up 1% on the year, and Chinese tech is up like 11 or 12, I think 13 today or after today. So it's pretty wild there. I would keep your eyes out for it because it's either everybody starts talking about it and it tops out, or this might keep being a silent giant. But there's some plays that are down, but a lot of them are already juiced up, at least in the short term. So be very cautious. Even the long term, we got 50% on Baba in the long term. I know. So we'll see where it all takes us. But other than that, I did make a couple of plays. I sold that bigger NVIDIA call that I had, and then I made a play on India. We talked about that on the watch list yesterday, and that was pretty much it. So keep it very, very simple, Habibi. Otherwise, I hope we get some intraday news, but like I'm saying, maybe the dynamic, we might have to wait. But once we start getting maybe the scope and size of the tariffs change, critical goods, then maybe that'll be phase 2, and then I hope you're ready. Pachata. That is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure hydrate healthy, ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. And I need you to remember, logic and reason is great, but you can't use them alone. You need everything with it. Oh, yeah. Don't let them drive you insane, baby. Vibe. Oh, yeah. Keep the armor on. What good is it if you don't bring it to battle? Oh, man. Chad, drink that water. Stay hydrated, healthy. I'll see you in the morning. And Horna.